Tourism Pathshala, it will transform your dream into reality. Good afternoon, my dear student. Today we are going to understand very important one of UGC NAEC Tourism Administration and Management. This topic is hypothesis. Hypothesis concept, hypothesis testing, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, level of significance, type 1 error, type 2 error. These are the important topic. So first of all, we have to understand what is hypothesis. Hypothesis is a proposed explanation for an observable phenomenon. The proposed explanation. The hypothesis testing is based on null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Apart from, we have to understand the one-tail test, two-tail test, type 1 error and type 2 error. What is null hypothesis? The hypothesis actually to be tested. The hypothesis which is actually to be tested is usually given the symbol H0, and it is commonly referred to as the null hypothesis. Next thing is the alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis which is assumed to be true when the null hypothesis is false. If we're going to test the null hypothesis when it is false, then we're going to next hypothesis which is assumed to be true. When the null hypothesis is false, it is for the alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis is symbolized by HA or HI. So, next important thing we have to understand the one-tail test and two-tail test. The hypothesis testing, hypothesis concept and hypothesis testing. Before understanding the hypothesis testing, we have to understand the population mean and sample mean. What is population mean? Population mean is called the hypothetical mean. First of all, you have to understand what is population mean. The hypothetical mean, it considered mu 0. Population mean also called the parameter. What is sample mean? Sample mean is the calculated mean. Sample mean is also called the statistics, and it is denoted as a mean. In the case of two-tail test, what is two-tail? Two-tail here, this is a tail. Two-tail means the critical area. Normal probability curve, MPV curve, the two-tail test is the critical area, two sides of the tail, and this is the accepted area and this side of the critical area. Now try to understand the two-tail test. In two-tail test of hypothesis, we'll reject the null hypothesis if the sample mean is significantly higher than or lower than hypothesized population mean. Sample means statistics or mu, and hypothetical means parameter. It's called the mu 0. The two-tail test can be symbolized like this way. H0 is the null hypothesis. Let's do mu equal to mu 0. Sample mean equal to population mean. And HA, alternative hypothesis, mu not equal to mu 0. This is the expression of two-tail test. Now, two-tail test in statistics. Two-tail test is a method in which the critical area of distribution is two-sided and test whether the sample is greater than or less than the certain range of value. So in two-tail test method in which the critical area of distribution is two-sided here. Critical area of distribution two-sided. Okay. If the sample being tested fall into either of the critical area, this area, critical area, the alternative hypothesis is accepted instead of null hypothesis. I repeat again, if the sample being tested falls into either one critical area, the alternative hypothesis is accepted instead of null hypothesis. In the two-tail test used under both tail of normal distribution, this is a normal NPV curve, normal probability curve, normal distribution. Two-tail test used under the both tail of normal distribution, although the test can be used non-normal distribution. So these are the expression. H0 is to mu equal to mu 0, HA is to mu not equal to mu 0. Now they are going to one-tail test. One-tail test also called the directional hypothesis test. Either right-tail test or left-tail test. In the right-tail test, mu is the sample mean, mu zero, population mean. In right-tail test, in the case of H, alternative hypothesis, mu greater than mu zero. And null hypothesis, mu less than mu zero in the case of right-tail test. In the case of left-tail test, H, alternative hypothesis, mu less than mu zero or mu greater than mu zero. These are the left tail tests. The directional one tail test is the based on directional hypothesis test. It can be one tail test or it can be right tail test or left tail test. These are the three situations. In two tail test, null hypothesis equal to mu zero. In the case of alternative hypothesis, mu equal to no. Mu not equal to mu zero. One tail test, case of right tail, H0 is to mu not equal to less than equal to mu zero, HA mu greater than equal to mu zero. And one tilt is left side, H in the case of H0 null hypothesis, mu greater than equal to mu zero. And in the case of HA alternative hypothesis, mu less than equal to mu zero. These are the situation of the two-tail test and one-tail test. So what do we have now? We have understand the hypothesis, concept of hypothesis, two-tail test, one-tail test. Now we move on. Another important thing that is very important in the case of two-tail and one-tail test, that is from the level of significance. What is level of significance? The probability. Good morning, my dear student. Before going to discussion the class, there is important information. We have already started UGC NEET and JRF coaching for tourism administration and management and paper 1 also. We will provide online classes. Number 1, number 2, syllabus wise coverage. Number 2, number 3, previous year short question and analysis and explanation each and every question. I will provide also PDF note. There is a doubt clearing session and you also get the flexible class schedule. Students who have interest, you can join through this WhatsApp number 9123711814. Thank you. With which we will reject our null hypothesis when it is true. It is called level of significance. This is very important. Level of significance also called type 1 error. The probability with which we will reject a null hypothesis when it is true. This is called the level of significance. It is also called type 1 error. The probability with which we will accept a null hypothesis when it is true. We will reject, first case the reject null hypothesis when it is true, that is level of significance or type 1 error. Another situation, we will accept null hypothesis when it is true, it is from the confidence level. So probability maximum value is 1, always maximum value of probability 1, and confidence level, level of significance symbolized as alpha, and not 1 and confidence level symbolize 1 minus alpha. Now, when we use the two-tail test, I have already told you that two-tail test hypothesis are non-directional. When we use two-tail test, the hypothesis are non-directional test. There are two kinds of situation. H0 is 2 mu minus mu1 minus mu2 equal to 0. H0 is 2 mu equal to mu2. To find that there is any difference or not between the difference between the mean. The concern about the no concern. In the case of two-tail test, they are not concerned the direction or sign of the difference. Now one-tail test. One-tail test is the directional test. I have told you. The level of significance. Level of 1% level of significance means 0.01 equal to 1%. 1% level of significance, the confidence level 99%. 0.05 means 5% level of significance, confidence level 95%. or 1%, 0.1 means 10% level of significance and 90% confidence level. So these are the confidence level, these are the rejection level. In the total case at 5% level, suppose a 5% level of significance, it can be divided into two parts, 2.5% and 2.5%. Left side 2.5%, right side 2.5%. Suppose minus 1.96 sigma or plus 1.96 sigma. Level of significance 0.01. Corresponding confidence interval in the terms of Z value. 0.01 means 1% level of significance or 99% level of confidence. 0.05% level of significance, its corresponding confidence interval in terms of minus 1.96 alpha 2 plus 1.96 alpha. So these are the values. You try to remember. The rejection of one-tail test is a 5% level of significance, either left side or right side is the left side, and 99-95% level of acceptance. When one-tail test used to test alternative hypothesis or directional hypothesis, we use the one-tail test. So in the two kinds of situation, H1 means alternative hypothesis is to mu1 less than mu2, or in the case of alternative hypothesis, mu1 greater than mu2. In the case of one-tail test, concern about the direction or sign of the difference in exist. So these are the very important topic for one-tail test and two-tail test. Null hypothesis, I have told you, no statistical significance between two variables. Alternative hypothesis, there is a statistical significance between two variables. These are the rejection area, or 2.5, we can divide. The value lies in the critical region, then we reject the null hypothesis. It is very important. In the case of statistics, when the value lies in the calculated value, or calculated value lies in the critical region, we reject our null hypothesis, we accept alternative hypothesis. Next important thing, we have to very important, the type 1 error in the testing hypothesis. There are four kinds of situation can be happen. Either rejection H0 or null hypothesis when it is actually not true, that is when H0 is false. Accept H0 or null hypothesis when it is true. Reject null hypothesis when it is true. Accept null hypothesis when it is false. So these are the situation, true test. So hypothesis, in testing a hypothesis, we are likely to commit two types of error. The error of rejecting null hypothesis is true. We reject our null hypothesis when null hypothesis is true. It's called the type 1 error. And the error of accepting H0, when we accept H0 when it is false. We accept H0 when it is false. It is called type 2. We reject H0 when it is true. It is type 1 error. We accept H0 when it is false. It is called type 2 error. Level of significance, we try to remember, level of significance also called the type 1 error. Next important step, you have to remember, try to remember, UGC, sometimes UGC asks a question, the procedure of testing hypothesis, steps and procedure. Step 1, set up null hypothesis or H0. First step, when you are going to test our hypothesis in research, the step 1 is set up null hypothesis. Step 2, set up alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis H0, alternative hypothesis H1. We did alternative. Choose the appropriate level of significance. Next, third step, we have to set up our significance level. Maybe 1%, 5%, like this. Number 4, step 4, compute the state statistics. Then compute the test statistics. In that case, as example, Z equal to T minus E by SE. Then these are the way obtaining the state statistics or the state criteria normal, either chi-square test or t-test or f-test. And step 5, we compared the computed value, what you have got, the computed value of z in the step 4 with the significance level, computed value or the significance level value in the sign level of significance alpha. So these are the important step and strategy. So you have to try to remember. So these are the important topic of our hypothesis. So what we know the concept of hypothesis, null hypothesis testing, null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, one-tailed test, two-tailed test, and type 1 error and type 2 error. These are the important area we have understood today, and this is a very important for our upcoming exam. So, my dear student, any queries, any doubt you have to directly send the message to my WhatsApp number I have already given. So, keep touch this channel, share and discuss regarding any topic of this set. Thank you.